Alright, so my 10th worst movie of the year. And keep in mind, I did not see the Emoji Movie this year. Not
no
yet.
one needs to see it.
I will watch it.
I saw bits and pieces of it on a plane.
Oh.
It was playing on my
trapped.
trip. It was playing on my trip.
Poor man.
Did you scream, get this motherfucking Emoji Movie off this motherfucking plane?
I could change the channel. I had a private screen.
Good.
But my other choices were Kingsman, the sequel.
Oh, Golden Circle?
Yeah. What was that?
Would have been aesthetically
Suicide
pleasing.
Squad.
I think I would have watched Suicide Squad again.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And then I tried watching it in German because that was an option too.
That sounds like fun.
You watched 2 superhero movies in German, huh?
Yeah. Thor. On the first flight, I watched Thor: The Dark World.
Oh.
Which I hadn't seen
Was
that
that
one.
after
Which you
yet.
got caught up?
After
Yay!
Ragnarok?
Yeah, I hadn't seen the second one.
Yeah, because
before,
you guys
so.
had asked me what happened before we went to Thor Ragnarok, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, by the way, Loki, did that to his dad.
Battle of the Sexes was also playing on the plane.
That would have been a good one.
I saw that one.
was pretty good.
I was a little surprised that got completely snubbed at the Oscars.
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah.
But not too surprised given the competition this year.
No.
I
But
guess
still.
so, but I'm still surprised it didn't fall into one of those categories. Or
So-
Yeah, I mean, there's only 3 nominees for makeup. I mean, they could have thrown what's her name in there for looking like Billie Jean King.
I don't know.
Emma Stone didn't quite deserve makeup. Not quite. And Steve Carell didn't use anything.
Well,
So, I don't know.
all right.
It was perfectly serviceable.
Yeah. All right. Anyway,
So, yeah.
worst movie.
Worst movies of the year. Number 10 is The Dark Tower, which I saw and then quickly forgot. And then I was making the list up and...
You know,
realized,
Stephen King movies never do that well.
Ouch. I like Dark Tower so much.
Did you see it?
I did.
Did you read it?
I've only, like I told you, I read them out of order.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, I got the gist of it later on, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a decent Stephen King movie. I liked how it wasn't as good as It, but I did enjoy the references that
It
made.
was out this year.
Yep. That was a thing this year.
I enjoyed that one, but I forgot about it.
That was really fun. I never forgot. Pinterest and Instagram never let me forget.
Oh, yeah, well, then there's that.
That movie. That was another good one that would have been in my top next to Rod. Not next to Rod, probably would have been in the middle, but it's still very good. Enjoyed it.
I think the worst part about The Dark Tower, other than just the script being bad, the directing being bad, the cinematography being abominable, the acting being abysmal, with the exception of Matthew McConaughey, who he's trying so hard.
He's true.
The worst part about that is just the prospect of a shared cinematic
universe.
Stephen King universe.
That's what I liked.
So
I just thought it was fun.
I understand in the books, The Dark Tower, I get it.
It's connected to everything.
Right, but when you're seeing it on film, you're seeing this awful piece of shit movie, and somebody says they have The Shining, I want to smack someone. I don't want to see that. I don't need shared cinematic universe with Stephen King. I also need things to stop taking place in Maine. Just stop it. That's the worst part about it. I don't care about Derry, Maine. I don't care about Maine, period. It is now my least favorite state in the Union, aside from maybe Alabama or Mississippi. No.
Oh, I so want to go to Maine just so I could go past his house. I think it'd be wonderful.
See, if I had read the books, that might have been one thing. And I've read, 5 or 6 Stephen King books, but...
I'm such an avid Stephen King fan that I'm just like, oh...
I don't think I've read a Stephen King book that hasn't been made into a movie. So,
okay.
I've read Firestarter, made into a movie.
Well, that's
The
kind of the
Shining.
same with Gerald's Game, too. I actually had not read that one.
Nobody had,
But
except for the hardcore fans. Everybody I know who's read it has said it's an inferior Stephen King work.
It is. It really is. It kind of slips under the radar because I did manage to read half of it. Half of it, and it was interesting. So.
Brax? Any thoughts on Stephen King?
I haven't read any books.
Any at
watched
all?
any movies?
Not none of his books.
Have you seen The Shining?
No.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't believe that.
Whoa.
I think we need
You
to
weren't here that Halloween that we all watched it?
Only movie I've seen here during Halloween is Holy Mountain.
You lived here through an October. We watched a shit ton of horror movies together. I know we watched The Shining that month.
Not with me.
Wow.
Wow.
I
We
couldn't
need
tell
to
you a
fix that
damn
this
thing about
Halloween.
that story.
Insane.
We need to do a horror movie, you know, of like Tamara's never seen.
We need,
Braxton's never
Braxton's
seen.
never seen.
we need,
Horror movie.
The only
Edition.
thing I can even know about that movie is White Man's Guild. I don't even know the context of that.
we need a film
Batman's
intervention.
There you go.
Yeah.
We need a film intervention with Brax.
I think so.
And Angel
And
too,
Angel.
because he's never
That's what I was
seen the
thinking.
Star Wars.
Yeah, that's
You
just
need to get
sad.
him prepared.
And he's with the art house crowd. So my number
Yeah.
9 worst is Death Note,
Oh.
and I don't really have to explain that.
No, you really don't. However, you must admit, Ryuk is a lot of fun.
Honestly, I didn't even care for that aspect.
Really?
I
I
really
thought he
didn't.
was fun.
So Willem Dafoe as Ryuk, he looks just like in the Japanese films,
Mhm.
live action
Yeah.
films.
Uh-huh.
He looks like
The
a
CG,
Roger
he's
Rabbit
not really
kind of
there.
thing.
Yeah.
it sticks out like a sore thumb, and I thought his character was bland and boring, as well.
Hmm.
So I don't know, but the biggest thing was just that Misa, whatever they call her in this one, Mia or something.
Yeah.
They completely destroyed her character.
They did.
And
They made her a Harlequin.
yeah, they did.
Hmm.
And they made Light.
Oh my god.
The alterations to his character completely destroyed a lot of the underlying messages within Death Note.
You're like reliving it in your head, aren't you?
It's bad. It's bad. Yeah, I understand the
Fucking
flashbacks.
whiny bitch!
But that show is so complex in its
really
treatment of
is.
morality, and Death Note is so simplistic. I hated that.
However, the part where they're falling from the Ferris wheel, I just had to watch it over and over again because it was the most wonderful thing. It was funny. Like, they had like this romantic music playing in the background. They're like stuck up there and they're gonna die. And whole convoluted plot with the Death Note or whatever.
Mhm.
And there's this romantic music playing. They're both falling to their death and like making weird faces at the camera, and it's just wonderful. It makes me so happy to watch those characters die.
I can empathize with that. So my number 8 is a movie that shares. I don't know. For some reason, I equate it with another film that came out last year.
Oh, okay.
This movie called Me Before You, which I call I Love You Now Please Kill Me.
Oh, that's really cute.
It was that movie where there was this guy who was confined to a wheelchair, and he had a maid of some sort, and none of his other maids could make him happy. And so she made him happy, and they fell in love.
Oh, that
And then-
one, that was really, oh.
Yeah, and then at the end, he says, "Will you please help me commit assisted suicide?
Yeah,
Please."
I remember that one.
I'm in a wheelchair. Just kill me." And she does it, and it's treated as the sweet thing. So this it made me feel that way because it was also a young adult kind of thing. It was called Everything,
fuck.
Everything.
Mm.
So there's
Wait,
Yeah.
Everything,
This is
Everything.
Because this all sounds like all the young films run together in my
Right.
head.
Yeah.
They all sound the same.
So it's about a girl who is, she has some kind of a rare disorder, some kind of immune disorder.
Is this one where she can't go outside?
Yeah. So she lives like in kind of like a glass house or whatever.
Oh,
And,
that one.
And she has a neighbor who moves in who's very hot, and
Of course he is.
of course they break the rules, and he comes inside and exposes her to germs, and then they just run away and go on vacation and come back, and she gets a little bit sick, and then she finds out that the mother has been lying the entire time about her immune disorder. She doesn't have an immune disorder at all. Her immune system is just weak because she's been in this glass cage for so long. And so she basically disowns her mother, and then that's the end of the movie. But the thing is, the whole thing is an afterthought. and it should be treated like a horror film. This could have easily been a horror movie,
That would have been cool.
but it's not.
Paid to watch it.
And it's disgusting and made me feel gross.
Wow.
That's how I
The
feel
mother
about
is
it.
not vilified enough. Like that's some hardcore child abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And her motivation for doing so, for keeping her daughter locked up for so long and lying to her, was because her husband and son had died in a car accident,
Oh,
and she didn't want to lose the last part of her immediate family.
that's very unhealthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So my next one, oh my God, The Shack.
Oh.
Really? The
So
Shack?
it's that movie that everybody's misguided great aunt or distant relative who's getting a little bit senile recommends to you, and it's just like, oh, this will help you through your grief, and it's horrible.
It's definitely not one of those that would help. Well, being associated with grief all the time, it's definitely not one of those that would, help you
No.
through your grief at all.
No.
But it is. I would say it's a decent story. I don't mind it. I
So,
don't mind the book. The
I can
book was
understand
decent.
that in the context of something that's about 150 pages. It's
Yeah,
relatively
it's a
short,
short
right?
book.
And that, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I
That's what
understand
think,
that.
Yeah.
So the movie
I
does
haven't
not support
watched the
that.
movie at all.
Okay, so in the movie, there's one thing I can say that's good about The Shack,
Mm-hmm.
and it is the first time an Israeli man has been portraying Jesus in an American
Really?
film.
That's nice. That's
Yes.
nice to know.
And
That's good.
that's kind of the way it should be.
Yeah.
Always, but
Agreed.
yeah, no. Actual Israeli Jesus is a thing in this movie.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
Represent. All I know is that Skillet had the music video that they did for the song playing
Oh,
quite a bit
No.
on rock
I
music.
didn't know about that.
State-
I
Stations.
forget about Skillet being a Christian band.
I love them.
I forget about
I've seen them in
Skillet
concert
existing.
twice.
True.
I really like them. But I do know that they had played a song for it,
Mm.
and I remember seeing the music video, which I had the lead singer is very hot. I can't pay attention to the song without looking at him, so it kind of went by me. But regardless, other than that, I don't know too much about the movie.
Okay, so I did not read the book. Thank you, God, because I'm not going to waste my time on that.
Book
But
isn't too bad.
The
But I
Shack was
understand.
really problematic. So Octavia Spencer is one of the three parts of God, and of course, everybody knows that's the basic premise,
Mhm.
And she comes across as the magic Negro character. She's very much that part of God. And then you have Asian God, who takes the main character into a cave and does things that look like they may be vaguely related to martial arts and Eastern culture. Yeah. I don't remember the nationality of the other
Remember
one.
this in the
Wait,
book
no,
at
no,
all?
no. Then that's Jesus. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even remember, actually. I think I have that somewhat wrong. Regardless, I just remember the Magic Negro, Octavia Spencer. And I remember the occurrence at Elk Creek Bridge thing, where it turns out that he had never been to the Shack, and he got in a car accident after he had just,
Yeah, that was a factor in the book.
yeah, it was very Wizard of Oz-like. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But more than anything, a majority of the film is dedicated to explaining the logistics of the Trinity.
Oh.
So the main character will say something like, God, why aren't you like this? And then God will say something to explain that. And that is literally half of the dialogue in this movie.
Interesting.
There's so much explaining of this metaphor.
It
explains itself into the ground.
That's upsetting that it explains itself that much, considering it's in the book it seems more abstract. It's more, they describe it, but they don't tell you.
Oh no, that's not.
So
not
that's
this movie.
why that's a little disappointing to hear, because of how nice and developed it was for a short story.
Yeah.
But
Ooh.
I understand your point of view on it too.
Mhm.
So I respect.
Well, I mean, you haven't seen the movie yet. My
No.
guess is you wouldn't like it.
I don't want to see it. That's the thing.
So my number 6 is The Circle.
Oh,
the-
yeah. The one with Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
and,
Tom Hanks.
What's her name?
Emma
Hermione Granger.
Watson.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I forgot that was a thing.
Yeah, The Circle is this big conglomerate that's essentially a hybrid of Apple and Facebook and a couple other little things, and it's also a little bit like a cult. And John Boyega is this boy genius who is trying to rebel against it, even though he created it, and he completely flies under the radar of everybody in the company, in spite of the fact that he's always around, and he's constantly doing these things that are against the circle, and so then Emma Watson is like, I want to increase my exposure in the company, I want to do some ladder climbing, so put cameras on me 24/7. And she quickly regrets that decision.
That was a thing in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, then she exposes, one of her friends gets chased down in some demonstration. Like they're trying to demonstrate that they can find anybody in like 20 minutes, anybody in the world. And they say, well, what about your friend who lives off the grid? And so they chase him down, and he ends up like going off a bridge and dying. And you think, oh yeah, no, this is going to be her end of the time in the circle. Well, instead, she decides that there needs to be more surveillance. That is the answer. And so she exposes Tom Hanks and Patton Oswalt, who are the big heads of the circle. And then she becomes something that is even worse. You know, she's basically like this fascist dictator by the end of the movie, which doesn't make any sense. Yeah, so there's no moral. It's just surveillance is bad. And I have a personal bone to pick with this movie because Bill Paxton plays a man with multiple sclerosis. And there are not many portrayals of MS on film. Now, there are certain parts of the movie where Bill Paxton will just kind of like be sitting down and drinking a beer, and then all of a sudden he'll start going, and his wife will escort him up, and it'll be like, oh, Daddy's having an attack. And I'm like,
what?
No,
That's not okay.
Oh.
MS does not make you spontaneously developmentally disabled. That's not what happens.
No.
So this movie deeply offended me in the fact that it is not higher on my list.
Yeah.
But then the circle, like, they cure his MS for a minute, and then she decides not to become a part of the circle and for a brief portion, and then his MS comes back. It was the insensitive portrayal is what puts it there. But
Jeez.
my number 5 was The Snowman.
Oh, yeah.
A movie
That
so
thing.
bleak and so by the numbers that it's almost unwatchable. The main character's name is Harry Hole.
Yep.
So
I
keep
about that on Film Thread a lot.
I can't
funny.
believe that got. I really want to read the novel because I keep hearing people talk about the novel being good.
Right.
You know, but based on everything I've seen, there's no way that could be possible, because the whole script, the whole plot, is just bad.
Yeah.
It has a predictable killer. You know who it is from the very first time you meet him. The idea of the snowman is not taken anywhere. Apparently, this guy just likes to make snowmen.
I'm sensing a Frozen vibe right now.
More than anything, it feels like...
Do you want to build snow?
Yeah. It feels like a David Fincher movie if you did everything wrong.
Yeah. Huh.
But it's just
shit.
it's sad and depressing.
You know, that
and-
was kind of the vibe that I got just from the trailer.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. I kind of thought it might be like this year's Gone Girl when I first saw it.
Uh-huh.
You know, maybe there'll be a lot of twists and turns, and there are. Like the big twist that Michael Fassbender sleeps outside because he wants to, and he feels guilty. Not because he doesn't have a home,
Oh,
because he wants to.
gee.
Yeah, that was sad. So my number 4 was Beatrice at Dinner, which I have a special relationship with. Beatrice is played by, what's her name? Selma Hayek. And she is a healer of some sort. She's a Mexican immigrant, and she goes to one of her clients one day, and she's doing some kind of a massage or something, and her car breaks down, so she's kind of forced to stick around, and her client invites her to dinner, and the entire night everybody just makes fun of how poor she is, and then she gets drunk and finds out that John Lithgow, one of the members of the party, is this big bad man who is building things over her homeland, hotels.
That's interesting.
And yeah, I mean, I have a really long review of that on my website, and going into why it's so terrible and why I hate it so much is difficult. Just off the cuff, but
yeah,
it was bad. My number 3 is The Case for Christ.
Oh.
So I don't know. Have you heard of The Case for Christ?
Oh yeah.
As a book.
No.
A nonfiction book.
No.
Okay. So there's this man Lee Strobel.
I know who that is.
Essentially, it's like maybe 10 to 12 chapters, and each one of them is based around a popular argument as to why Christ was not historically a real thing. And so he would go through and disprove all of that using somewhat shaky rhetoric sometimes. But for the most part, it was convincing enough to convince lots of people. And they took this long essay and they made it into a movie about Lee Strobel. So the main character is just this guy who keeps telling his wife, "You're stupid for believing in Jesus. Now here's why." And then you have one chapter of the book basically unfold in terms of plot, in the form of plot.
Okay.
He'll go to an expert, which is, I'm going to randomly drop in on a surgeon today and take everything he says as gospel truth. And then eventually he'll give in and say, "Oh no, you might have been right, honey, but you're wrong about this, you stupid woman." And it just keeps going and going. The whole thing is just him being a dick to his wife. It's the entire movie.
I mean, I was trying to remember if I actually saw the review that, what's his name?
Oh, Bible Reloaded?
No, Brad Jones. Brad Jones.
Oh. His midnight screenings for that. Yeah.
I want to say that I saw it, but I don't know if I watched it to the end. Doesn't she die at the end? Like his...
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay. Maybe I'm thinking of a different one, because I thought one of them was the wife dies at the end. I don't remember what it was.
Maybe.
Okay. Maybe if it wasn't that one, I couldn't remember. Whatever.
So my second is Britney Ever After.
What?
Britney Ever After was a Lifetime film.
Britney Ever
I've seen it 5 or
After.
6 times.
It sounds stupid.
It is really stupid. So it's an unlicensed biopic. It focuses very much on the darkest times of Britney Spears' life and her rise to fame. Justin Timberlake is in it. I mean, his character, not him. So, to describe why it's such a horrible movie...
It sounds horrible, just you describing it.
It's so much worse than you think. So, they did not get the rights to a single Britney Spears song.
Oh,
but they still do musical performances.
I remember
How do
hearing
these
about
work?
this. Yes.
They're covers of other songs. Like Rolling Stones songs.
It's just Britney Spears performing covers.
Yeah. And there's a scene where she decides to break up with Justin Timberlake, and she does so the only way she knows how, with a dance-off.
What?
Yes. This is a real thing that exists. And oh my god, when she decides to shave her hair, it looks amazing. But she's very childlike in the whole thing.
Really?
Yeah. So, like, the very beginning, they spend about 10 minutes with her in this, what would you call that, RV, that's decked out with a TV, because that was a novelty back then, I guess. Maybe. And she's just a country hick, and she talks about how fancy everything is. And then her promoter tells her, "Oh, by the way, you have to dump your boyfriend, because he's bad for press." And so she does, with no guilt, no shame whatsoever. It's just,
Bye.
oh, you're gone. Everything about it's a train wreck. It needs to be seen to be believed. It
Oh,
really does. But
this sounds painful.
you want to watch it, believe me.
Oh.
It's beautiful. It is a wonderful work of art. It is the best of the awful Lifetime movies.
Nice.
But nothing really compares to my number one. My number one is something that I was looking forward to for over a year because I believe the movie got delayed. I saw trailers for it before several movies. I Am Not Ashamed. And boy, should they have been.
Boy, should they have been.
So, I'm Not Ashamed is normally known as that Christian Columbine movie. So, it's about Rachel Joy Scott. They use actual excerpts from her diary, read aloud by the actress as voiceover. They twist those to fit their purpose. It's basically about how she makes everybody in the school except each other, all of the people who are developmentally disabled, and all the jocks start getting along because of Rachel Joy Scott. And then all throughout the movie, it's intercut with scenes of Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold doing Columbine things. So there's a scene that happens out of nowhere. They're sitting there and playing video games in their basement, and one of them turns to the other and just says, "I wish Columbine was like this." And you can tell it's some first-person shooter, some violent, and then there's another one where it's a relatively sweet montage of all these things that are happening, and in the middle of this montage, set to soft Christian music, is just one of the two Columbine killers reading Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
And it's full of non-dialogue, and it's impressive. It's impressive in how awful it is. But
as someone who has actually studied some of the Columbine stuff, because it fascinated me, which I think it scared a lot of teachers in high school, how fascinated I was by it. God. But anyway, because I like that sort of stuff. I remember having like a serial killer book, and sometimes I'd bring to class and I'd be flipping through it. So as soon as we got an assignment in our psychology class about we got to pick out a serial killer, and I was like, oh, which one's my favorite? But it's bizarre to me that someone would want to touch on it that way.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That is.
Yeah, and the whole movie feels like its own thing outside of the Columbine incident. It's not something like Elephant, where it's an account of that. It's about her life up until she died. And it ends with her dying.
As interesting as that is, to see it from a different point of view or a different perspective, as interesting as it sounds, to think of it that way, because this is the same girl that, she was the heroine, right? In the actual Columbine shooting, right?
I don't think I would call her a heroine. Yeah. She was the one who, her father took, she pulled an Anne Frank, and she had this diary, and her father took pieces from it and turned it into this big charity. It's something about anti-bullying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was the same girl where they had...
Are you thinking of She Said Yes?
She said yes, yeah.
She said yes.
That's it, because she became...
Wrong person.
Okay, because she became an actual saint. She was actually...
Right.
In the Catholic Church, she is a saint now.
And I firmly believe that the whole She Said Yes thing was a complete lie.
But,
most of the eyewitnesses say that did not happen.
Really?
Yeah, so
I don't know too much about it. I don't know. I think she was... Okay. I should say that she became one. I think she was in the process of her story was being looked over, or to be deemed for sainthood. I don't know if she actually became a saint yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because even John Paul II isn't officially a saint yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, he is. He is now.
Officially?
He is
now.
now.
Yeah, when a pope dies, they become a saint.
No.
Oh, that's not how that
Because
works?
it was like there's like levels to it.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't fully to sainthood yet. They hadn't
Yeah.
fully approved. They hadn't found like the third miracle or whatever to
there's
confirm
3
it.
or 4 miracles that they have to go
Yeah.
through, and he is now one.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, because we had a like celebration for it in church
Okay.
one time.
Well, I don't think.
Look what your breath did. Damn it.
I don't really have a worst of list to speak of because I didn't watch any of those.
You were a really lucky man. Except for Britney Ever After. You missed out on that.
Okay. I might need to seek that one
Okay,
out.
you need to see I'm Not Ashamed as well. That's a required viewing.
Actually watch it, not just the Bible Reloaded video.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
It makes me cringe just thinking about it.
It
No,
should.
I wanna.
Did you have like one that you would say was the worst of the year?
Not really, because I didn't want to watch any of the worst ones, because that didn't sound good.
Yeah. I'm not in the habit of going to see every movie that comes out, you know, which maybe we should get into that. Try
So
and
much
do a bit
money.
of that.
I mean, as fun as it would be, I'm thinking of all the money you have to shovel out too. I'm a miser. I have to I like to.
What's money, you know? Come on.
I don't know. Got a lot of things I can think of that I could do it with.
But you know, so yeah, I mean we're not gonna waste our time watching something that's not good because we didn't seek it out.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
But
good.
I always do.
Yeah, it's a good thing that you do because you have that
I
perspective.
mean, damn it, I
as well.
watched Tammy, I watched The Heat in
Oh.
the past 2 years. So, yeah.
Oh.
You poor thing.
Damn.
But then again, you know what? I'm proud of you.
Anything that's, in the top of box office numbers, I usually end up watching.
I think the worst movie I watched last year, and it came out the year before, was Ghostbusters.
I still have avoided that.
I
I'm proud
I
to
watched
not
that
see
one on DVD
Ghostbusters.
last year.
I watched it
so
on DVD
that
too.
counts.
I did.
Of what I saw.
It was awkward. It wasn't. It was bad.
It was bad.
It was meh. I agree. It was meh. And it just. I didn't think anything of it. It was just awkward. I don't know how else to describe it.
It had Leslie Jones in it. That's all you need to know.
She
It's
was like the
terrible.
least worst part of the
Yeah,
whole thing.
she was.
Quite honestly.
She was fun. I
Well,
liked her.
If that's the case, then I can only cry for what that movie was to actually be.
Right.
I agree. She was fun. I liked her.
All right. Rex,
Yeah.
final thought. Take us out.
Yeah. I
We're closing the video on you. Do
mean,
it. Be strong.
I am the black sheep. Oh, fucking
All right.